Guys, look at this shit. Man, excuse my language, but look at this. My fucking whole house, man.
Home update. My official nightmare as a homeowner has happened.
I have been poisoned by my house.
Here's what it's going for right now. Let's see what we got. Looks like we've already got some thermal expansion in action. So there's normal shrinkage cracks, and then there's this. Not the same thing. If you look close enough, right over here, where we can see this parge coat starting to come off the concrete, that's a foundation crack starting.
Just wanted to point something out to people that are buying houses right now. If your house is newly built and it is built during the rainy season, most likely they are using particle board or OSB instead of actual plywood. It's getting drenched, and then they cover it, put a roof on it, they put drywall up, and before you know it, you've got black mold in your house that you have never lived in.
There are some horror stories of people buying houses and immediately regretting it, whether it's the price or the house just falling apart or already falling apart and just didn't notice. We got to talk about these. I found some really interesting ones. Let's get right to it.
Guys, look at this shit. Man, excuse my language, but look at this. My fucking whole house, man. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Look at this. My whole house. Fucking everywhere. Excuse my language. I'm sorry, y'all. This is crazy. Crazy. Fuck crazy, man. Lord God, this is nuts. They're all over me. I have termites all over me. This is crazy, y'all. Freaking plague style swarm. This house is going to have to get tenant. Look at this. Look at this, guys. Look at this. Millions. Fuck thousands. Millions. I can't. God, I think I just swallowed freaking 5 of them. I got to check on my dogs. Hold on, guys. Look at that. I'm trying to get them all attracted to that light right there. I don't know what else to do. I don't know what to do. Oh my God. You guys all right in here? All right, praise God. I got one safe spot.
My skin is crawling just watching this. This is truly biblical stuff. I tell you, this would make some people never want to buy a house again. If you're a renter, this is a landlord problem. If you're a homeowner, it's a you problem. I don't know what caused all those termites to get in there, but that is a lot of termites.
I got to check this spot over here. They're starting to come in here. See that spot right here.
So swarming termites can do some wild stuff. If you're an expert bug guy, comment down below. And what would y'all do in this situation? Me, I don't know. I would probably turn the lights out, try to get them to come to the light, and then maybe try to get, I don't know, kill them somehow. But I feel like that house and that yard and everything going on there, that was an ongoing issue. That is one of the most extreme termite swarms I've ever seen. I've seen bees do this. I've seen some really bad cockroaches in houses, but and then an actual like tunneling subterranean termites. But swarmers are wild. I will say this: anytime you buy a house, okay, always get a WDO inspection. Always, 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 always. That is wood destroying organisms. That is termites, pole beetles, any type of fungus. Like, check out the house and then try to get a bond on it. If you live in an area close to the water or in termite infested areas, make sure you get your house checked for termites. It looks like that one hole in the wall there, that there has been termites in that house. And you see the result, because that's a lot of termites coming from somewhere, and they got in the house. Okay, they didn't just come on a cloud like killer bees and land on the house, I don't think. Comment down below if you're an expert on termites, but that looks like you need to make sure you get your house checked every year for termites.
About a year and a half ago, I bought a brand new house. It's like a dream home for me, and little did I know how it would ruin my life. This is not normally how I look or sound. I have been poisoned by my house. My story is so crazy, everything I've experienced with this new build. But if I could share something with you, is that watch the process of your new build and check your AC by your AC guy, not theirs. My house has mold in it. I am so sick here. I'm stuck in this house. I have almost a 9% interest rate, and $3,000 of my mortgage goes to interest every month. My house, they forgot to put the vapor wrap or barrier wrap in it. My AC was installed wrong. Oversized unit with exposed holes everywhere. My whole house was built with moldy lumber. Every night, I sleep on my couch. These are my couches. I'm sick of it. I can't sleep in any of the rooms because I can't breathe. My throat hurts every day. I have the most insane symptoms every day from the mold exposure. I find myself getting off the couch to go outside to get fresh air because I can't breathe the air in here anymore. I get to a point where I can't handle it. I would have never thought this would be me. It could be anybody. It's actually really common with a lot of these new builds. They just throw them up so quick, and they do such a crappy job installing the AC. I mean, you're doomed if your AC is oversized for your space, because mold will start to grow in your house. Needless to say, through this whole horrible experience, the builders have tried to cover it all up, remediating and covering it up. We found the mold again today, and I'm suing my builders.
So as a real estate professional, investor, real estate agent, you can see it all. I've done quite a bit of real estate. You can see it all on this YouTube channel. New builds, let me tell you, I'm gonna get some flack on this, but they leave these bad boys open in the framing stage for a while, okay? And you just drive across town and you'll probably see a new build project where the lumber, the framing has gotten mold on it. And it's been in the rain, especially if it's built during the summer here, on the Gulf Coast. You'll see it, and then all of a sudden one day they'll throw a roof on it, throw the siding on it, and you wonder, where did all that humidity go? Where did all that water go? It stayed in the walls. I watched a hotel get built last year. They did this. It rained in it for a month. And then all of a sudden they threw a roof on it, and within 2 or 3 days, 4 days, they had a roof on it, siding on it, vapor barrier on it, and was throwing the walls up on it. And I was like, there's no way all that lumber dried out. And now it is just sitting there, and inside those walls is black mold. She has a real problem. And one, I blame, she should have had an inspection done prior to closing on a new build. Always, always, always have an inspection done on a new build, a regular resale, any type of property you're trying to buy, get a home inspection. Even as an investor, expert, I guess you could call it being an expert like me, I get a home inspection, okay? Just cuts down on the things that you might miss. Always get a WDO inspection. And I would say this, if you have allergy problems, get a mold inspection. Worth it, $200. It would have solved this problem. And so I blame the real estate agent that she used. I blame the home inspector that she used. And if she used a builder's agent, no, that's on you, because you skipped a stage. The whole idea of real estate is to mitigate risk, and you do that by inspections. You try to go down the inspection process. home inspection, 4-point inspection, roof inspection, mold inspection, sewer inspection. And then, you know, usually in your 4-point inspection, you're doing your electrical, AC, water heater, roof, dot. Well, she, hopefully the home inspector, you would hope a home inspector could tell, doesn't look like there's house wrap on this house. Or, you know, I'm guessing this was a vinyl siding house. You would hope that the city inspector or the county inspector would have done a framing inspection, a post-framing inspection, and if they were doing their paperwork right, you wouldn't have something like this. That's the whole point of having the city, county inspectors to check on the contractors and home builders. That's the whole point. But what you wind up seeing is inspectors getting taken out for lunch by the home builders. You see the inspectors getting nice stuff from the home builders. Let me tell you, it's crooked. And the amount of money that these builders pump into these counties, you can't tell me there's nothing crooked going on with it. So hopefully she is suing. I'm not a lawyer, but hopefully she is suing. Hopefully they'll remedy it. And these are the situations where I don't ever say, like, give up a house, but this might be one that you might have to let go back to the bank. I don't know. Don't sue me. But if you can't get out of it, you can't sell it, because she's already put it all over the internet. It's full of mold. So she probably has negative equity on this house, and she's probably not going to be able to sell it. And I feel for her. This is a really hard, bad situation, but I will say you need to use professionals to mitigate risk, and this is one time she should have got a mold inspection before she went in there. I wish her luck on this one.
Missing foam, staggered rafters, damaged header, got top plate cut short, unsecured Romex, in need of a stud shoe. You can't bore a hole near the edge. Reinforcement needed at transition. Undercut stud. Undercut stud. Missing reinforcement at transition. Missing a stud shoe. Undersized header. Undersized header. Undersized header. Undercut studs. Undercut studs. All the way down. Undercut studs. Undercut studs. Undercut studs. Not sealed. We've got overboard, and we've got a notched stud. So two things you can't do, and they're right next to each other. Missing foam, and we also have a damaged junction box. We got a notched stud. We've got a damaged load-bearing stud. You can see right up here the load. Got a notch stud. Need another header here. Similar to earlier, you can see.
This is a prime example of why you want a pre-drywall framing inspection. You see how bad some of this carpentry can be. I see this a lot, and sometimes if you're working with green wood, it'll shrink, and you can build a wall and the wood will shrink when it dries out. It'll twist, it'll bend, you'll have gaps. This is not acceptable, but just think, some of these new builds, some of the old builds, that's what's in your wall. That's what's holding up your house, and that's why you see some of these houses collapse. There's gonna be some errors, but that is nuts. And now think about when they pull all that out to fix it, how are they fixing it? Okay, they're splicing, they're shooting it with 900 nails, and the wood now in these houses, Hashtag don't sue me. My opinion. The wood in a lot of these houses is soft. It's very young wood, and they hit it with a million nails and starts to split and splinter and crack and crease and get an inspection.
Home update. My official nightmare as a homeowner has happened. It's like I genuinely had a nightmare about my reality last night. These are clothes that I had to buy from Walmart last night. They still have the tags on them because we had to run out of our house. So as you guys know from the last video, the previous owners stayed in the house a bit longer than they were supposed to. That was a whole thing. And once they got out, I was like, okay, great. We're gonna have the time of our life here. We got inside, we prayed over the house. And this entire time, like you can see these ladybugs, well, they look like ladybugs, they're actually called Asian lady beetles, kind of just like flying around the house. Now, I thought they were flying around the house because when I pulled up to move in the first time, the owners had left the door wide open. And I was like, oh, okay, some bugs got in from their move. Guys, come to find out, this house is literally infested with these lady beetles, like absolutely infested. We can't even sleep here. They're all over the couch, all over the bed, all over the floors, the table, everything. So trigger warning if you don't like bugs. You should probably not watch this part of the video because I'm gonna show you just what we're dealing with right now. So here is the infestation. There's my sweet mom who came into town to literally help me paint. Like, it's all over the house. We had to cover our couch in plastic. So yeah, there's a little glimpse of what we're kind of dealing with, and that's literally all over the house. So we're like, how did these little brats get in? Because everybody's like, oh, they just snuck in through the door being open. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Caleb got on the roof, and come to find out, the siding is like peeling up. There's holes in it. This was all not even mentioned by our inspectors. There are so many issues with this house. Like, we're going to have to pay for new siding. We're going to have to pay for so many things that were not disclosed in the inspection. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, our dream home has officially become our nightmare house. Stay safe out there, and if you see a ladybug, be suspicious because ladybugs don't bite.
Where was their pre-closing walkthrough? Always do a walkthrough an hour before you sign. Literally, it should go like this. If you're closing on a Friday, you're going over there. If you're closing at 10 o'clock, you're going to do walkthrough at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Then you're going straight to the closing table. Then you're signing. Then you're wiring. Don't do it 2 or 3 days before. You better do a walkthrough. The amount of stuff I've caught on walkthroughs right before you close, the only way I would do this is if it was an investment house and I was going to rip it apart anyways. But you need to make sure you do a walkthrough before you get over there. Having a WDO inspector go through this bad boy and check it for nuisance animals, critters, whole 9 yards with the termite inspection, because that bug guy is going to be like, look, man, you got a ladybug issue or you got a Chinese beetle issue. I would suggest you have me spray it. Usually they will tell you that. So she should have done her walkthrough. If you did your walkthrough and you saw these beetles, you're like, wait a minute, time's pause, we're not closing, get over here and fix it, you're paying for it, right? Because it needs to be as the day you walk through it when you close on it, in my opinion.
You'll see all these $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 houses. Hell, here's one. There's one. All right. I want to show you what these son of bitches are made out of. You see that? Better. Okay. There's this. Ain't shit to it. I want y'all's goddamn homes built out of fucking cardboard. 200 G's. 200 G's.
The crazy thing is, this is happening all over America. Builders are rushing, cutting corners, putting up new construction using substandard materials. Buy an older home, preferably before 1980.
I will say some of these houses get thrown up real fast. Comment down below if you're an expert on this, but I think that was pre-brick. Like, I'm guessing they're going to use a brick siding with weep holes, and they put that thermoply in there, and that stuff's like, there's a life expectancy on that stuff. So, be very careful when you're buying these houses. Go drive through the neighborhood before they finish them, especially if they're at the framing stage. Go drive through, see how long they've stayed open, they've stayed wet. make sure there's no mold on the framing, have a pre-framing inspection. This one, you know, let's say you're buying it from a distance and you're not able to do that, where you're gonna make sure you do a good home inspection. And if you can have two home inspectors. You can do a home inspection and a home inspection. A lot of people are going to give me kickback on that, but you can do it if you really feel like you're not getting everything or you don't trust the home inspector. Look, home inspectors get sued a lot. They have a high bar to not miss things, but sometimes they do miss things. And things like this, these new houses, they're getting thrown up fast. And if you can build a house in 2 or 3 weeks, you need to throw a question mark out there on what is the quality on it.
2025 new construction. It's a beautiful home, but at the end of the day, that's what a guy like me is here for. So here's what it's going for right now. Let's see what we got. Looks like we've already got some thermal expansion in action. So there's normal shrinkage cracks, and then there's this. Not the same thing. If you look close enough, right over here, where we can see this parge coat starting to come off the concrete, that's a foundation crack starting to form. I don't know why they didn't decide to put raised platforms underneath these condensers, but just because something complies with the minimum standard, it doesn't make it a great practice. They're not even level, by the way. This home's got 2 dishwashers. Pretty cool. Be a lot cooler if they both worked, though. By the way, there is power to this outlet. Just to confirm. Well, that's certainly not the safest place to put a hanging light fixture, but hey, they told us it's here, so that makes it okay, right? Anderson windows. These are fairly expensive. You can see that this one's not even lined up. If there's one thing that a flexible gas connector needs, it's slack. I mean, is anybody really surprised at this anymore? You know, it would be one thing if it was just every other rafter, every now and then, but when it's almost every single one, that's a problem.
You need to run far away from that house. If you're looking at any type of house and you're seeing cracks in the brick, settlement issues, you're seeing cracks in the slab, and we're not talking about hairline expansion stuff. We're talking about an actual crack that you can see, maybe put the edge of a quarter in or a dime in. You're starting to see problems, especially when it's only been on ground that long. Look, the framing in that house, you see how there was so many gaps in the framing? That house is going to start to twist and turn, and that's probably why that window is not wanting to close. You need to be very careful of these things, and do not close on a house and think the builder's warranty is going to cover you on all this stuff. If you're seeing it pre-closing, throw the flag, okay? Don't try to close and then hope they come and fix these things. You're going to be in a world of hurt. I don't see how that framing and all that passed from the county or the city. That inspector didn't flag some of that, but it looks like they did it. This is why you get inspections, and that's what that guy's there to do, and it looks like he's flagged it. Be very careful, everybody. There's some really bad deals out there.
Every single new build, every single one I do, they can never get the rafters connected to the ridge.
If you're wondering whether or not to get your new built home inspected, this is your sign. Look at that. Kind of see right there, drain line is disconnected. Let's go to the crawl space.
You know, it really makes me feel very bad when I see chemicals going into a house. Chemicals to remediate this, chemicals to remediate that. And one reason why you're seeing so many framing problems, look, that general contractor might be licensed, but the dudes working and building the house are not. Most of them are just guys they pulled from a jail cell or prison, throwing them out there, and they're doing carpentry work. They're not always the best, and you hope that the foreman is looking at the job and being like, hey, you know, those joints don't line up. Hey, those rafters don't fit. The quality of the builder. If you walk into a house and you do a quick once over and you see a handful of things just blatantly obvious in your face, what's the rest of the house like? That's when you got to say, hey, man, look, these missed 3 stud hangers. How many others did he miss? Or like you walk along looking at a row of stud hangers and you see 2 nails missing out of the stud hangers, 3 nails missing out of the stud hangers, 1 with no nails in the stud hangers. It's like that throughout the entire house, or whatever work that was completed by that guy. It's quality of work. You really got to throw red flags on this stuff. Do not close on a house if it's like that, okay? Especially a flip. There are flippers that do good work, okay? Then there are flippers that do terrible work. That's why you got to really dot your I's.
Okay, right now I feel like I'm the only person in the world this has ever happened to because Google isn't helping me. My mom has been a realtor for maybe like 20 years and she's never seen this before. Backstory, I've been living at the current property I've been at for 2 years now. Me and my boyfriend, we just bought the house straight from our landlords in June. And so we've been living here for about a month now. Well, a few days ago, we got an email from these strangers, and I've changed names and things for, you know, privacy reasons. I'm reaching out regarding the property you purchased and the house we're currently living in. My SO and I viewed this house in February and signed a lease on February 15th with our previous owners. We had not renewed our lease because me and my boyfriend were planning on buying a house, and it just so happened that later, like in May or so, we reached out to our landlords and they were like, oh yeah, we'll sell you this house. So we ended up staying in the house we've been renting and now we own it. Okay, anyways, we were shocked to learn that last week that the property was sold. After reaching out to the previous owner, she tried to inform us that the lease was canceled due to the sale. From my knowledge, based on leases, and everything I found on Google, leases do not get canceled just because you sold a house to someone else. No, every current lease is typically like just passed on to the new owner. Don't know if he got this from Google or what source it came from, but he said leases cannot be canceled unilaterally this way. Under the law, a lease contract would follow the property to the new owner, making you and Christian is my boyfriend and we own the house together, our new landlords. Our contract legally entitles you to move into like our house on August 7th. That being said, our first choice is not to pursue legal action in an attempt to move into your home. Okay, well, this would be, I feel, correct had we known there was even a lease signed for our house. Like, we took all like the right avenues. We have a title policy. We did our lender, like all city government that needed to be involved in our transaction was like involved in our transaction, and not once were we like ever told that there was a lease on our house. And I feel like that should be the previous owner's job to like write on the contract, hey, there's a lease on this property. We believe that previous owners have put us in an uncomfortable and messy situation. Will you help us resolve this so we don't have to take legal action? Okay, here's my response. I basically explained this is the first time we've heard of a lease being on this house, and if we had known, we would have never bought the property because we plan on living here. And I explained we've already been living here for 2 years now. We did the closing process and everything. We purchased the house directly from the previous owners. I had my mom's assistance because she's a realtor, but that she wasn't like a formal realtor on our behalf or anything. She just assisted with like paperwork and things. But the previous owners did not have a realtor. We are living in the home, so we would have never purchased the property. And there was never any documentation disclosing a lease existing for the property upon closing on the home. I don't know what to give them. I don't know what to tell them. Like, I feel like all they need to know is that it was not disclosed to us that you had a lease for this property when we bought the home. So I don't want to be booted out of my home come August 7th. Like, where are we gonna go? We're ice. Like, we closed on the home on June 13th. That's public knowledge. And he kept asking me questions, and I was trying to be like really polite. Like, I hope you get this resolved with the previous owners because like I can't.
So here's my thoughts on this. One, this comes off as a scam. Okay, I see lease scams all the time. I see, when you go to close a house, you always see scams. You see people come out of the woodwork with, I've got a lease. You see it a lot in other states that are tenant law friendly. They'll just produce something and be like, I'm supposed to move in there. The first problem she had is she bought it from the landlord with no agent. Okay, if you're savvy at real estate, cool, go for it. If you're not savvy at real estate, you need a professional, okay? If you don't like realtors or you like realtors, if you've got a good one, they would have found this out. Because if there's another agent on the other side and there's another agent on this side, they're gonna have to specify this. And then you have somebody that's liable for a lot of this. Usually, if there's a lease, at least where I'm at, if there's a lease, yeah, they would be able to continue the lease once the property's sold. But you got to actually prove right now that the lease is actually valid. Was there actually money transferred? Was there somebody changing their address? If not, it might just be a scam. Or the seller just doesn't want to tell you that, okay? And then I feel like you would be able to go after the seller. Not a lawyer here. You would need to get a lawyer. But I think, one, just looking at this, it is fake. I would tell them to pound sand. I would move in and we'd see what happens. But you really got to know more about this deal on what's going on with her, what kind of documents she's actually received. I don't think she's telling the whole story, or we see the whole story. It's probably a scam. But if not, she's going to probably have to get a lawyer and deal with this. But also, the person with the lease that's wanting to move in is going to have to get a lawyer. You probably wind up just getting them cash for keys or cash for the contract, terminate it, and get them to walk away. It's probably the smartest move, but I wouldn't be texting back and forth or emailing back and forth with them. I'd tell them to produce the contract, and if it's fraudulent, well, I'd report it to the local authorities, but if it's not, then we'd tear it up and we'd move on. But cash for keys works a lot. Sometimes you get a situation like this, give them $500, tell them to go somewhere else. A lot of times they'll take the $500, tear up the contract, and it was the cost of doing business. Cash for keys works a lot in landlord situations. But when you have just a land shark over there selling a house and somebody not knowing how real estate works, buying the house, you get in a situation like this, and now it's a you problem, and you can't even move into your own house. You need to know these things up front. And I think, off the top of my head, the FAR bar contract would put this in terms, okay? And you would know. And that's why you don't use a real estate contract. Again, I'm just a real estate agent, not a real estate attorney. That's why you want to use a legit contract to buy houses. Don't go get one from Kmart or LegalZoom and try to go out in another state and buy a house. Yeah, you can buy it that way, but it's not going to protect you from any of these problems like that. You need somebody that knows what they're doing to buy a house with you. It's worth the money to where all of a sudden you're not stuck not being able to live in your own house, okay? That's just my opinion.
Becomes moldy before it's even built. New construction out in the rain, a recipe for toxic mold growth. So many unsuspecting people will move into a new build home like this and experience a litany of mysterious symptoms, autoimmune disease, mast cell activation, dysautonomia. Never suspect that it goes back to mold. It's so important to remember that 25% of people, a fourth of the population, harbor those genetic polymorphisms, so certain genetic variants that render it exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, to excrete mold toxins from the body. Those are the people who would become very, very sick by moving into a water-damaged home. And of course, Western medicine would have no answers for them.
Well, at least that one's got a roof on it. I see many a times when there's no roof on it, you got OSB plywood getting wet, things going to swell up like a sponge, and it just holds into that house. And if you don't let it dry out, then you're going to have some real problems. It's really hard to prove when the mold showed up too. Like, if you have a mold inspection prior to moving in, it'll give you a date. Hey, there was mold present at the time I bought this house, or within the first 6 months or a year. But when it's in the walls, it's hard to know. It's hard to tell. You know, a lot of these old houses, like the one I lived in, they were designed to breathe, okay? Like, air moves in and out of the house, and it helps reduce the risk of mold. But when you have these houses that are completely sealed up, zip boarded, and they have these, you know, really nice air conditioning units in them where they're designed not to let air escape, air's trapped, and then you start getting mold. at least like in some of these old houses, they're made because there was no air conditioning when like my house was built, so they had to breathe, or you would get mold. And so we're getting into this world where, especially with encapsulated crawl spaces, that these houses don't breathe. And if you don't AC them right, or let's say you got in a hurricane situation and the AC's off for a very long time and water got in the house, mold will start to grow, and it can be a real problem. Be very careful buying a house that's been flooded. Be very careful.
You want to buy a house in 2025? I'm gonna give you some knowledge. Whatever anybody says, it's always the right time to buy if the price is right. But sometimes when the price is right, there's stuff that comes along with it. I closed on this house last Friday. On Saturday, the entire HVAC unit went out. We thought that it was just the fan motor, had that replaced, and it came back after it did not work, and the entire thing has to be replaced. That would be $10,000 right there that you're looking at. And this goes out for inspectors. Pay for an inspection, but be wary who you pay to do your inspection, because some inspectors are not as thorough as they should be, and as long as the thermostat turns on and there's heat coming out of the vents, all is well. If you buy a house in 2025, make sure you do your due diligence so you're not like me and wasting $10,000 to $15,000 after only being here for 3 days.
Okay. Not all home inspectors are great. Not all real estate agents are great. Hopefully you try to get the best ones you possibly can, and hopefully the best agents come with the best home inspectors, because their reputation is tied to these deals. Okay, and just looking at this from here, you know, I wasn't in this deal, I don't know anything about it, but I can see that air conditioning unit. Look, if you're buying a house and that AC unit is over 10 years old, you better spitball some money for an AC going out. All right, looking at that AC unit, I'm already in my head, my deal is going to be $10,000 cheaper because I'm going to be planning to replace that air conditioning unit. That home inspector would have said yes. I mean, there's only so many things inside the scope of an inspector. Like, a lot of these guys, love all the home inspectors out there, but I'm just saying, they're not AC experts, okay? They're not roofing experts. They're not licensed in any of that. Their job is to go in and see if anything's wrong in their opinion. And the laws of, let's say, the state of Florida, state of Alabama, give a scope to a real estate agent, and they give a scope to a home inspector. They do their best inside that. They will not let a real estate agent venture outside that scope of knowledge, or you can be sued or get in trouble. Same way with a home inspector. He can't venture out of it. But as a real estate agent, what you can do is, you know from experience that an AC unit is going to last 10 years. That's what most insurance companies are going to say. 10 years. We're at 10 years. I'm planning to get a couple more years out of that AC unit, and it's going to be toast. So we're going to go ahead and take the cost to replace, and we're going to prorate it into that deal, and I'm going to plan ahead. That's what I would do. I would say, okay, if we're at $350,000, we're going in at $340,000 negotiating, and we're going to probably have it serviced. In the parameters of the inspection period, I'm going to specify that they have it serviced, and I'm going to go $10,000 under, and we're going to see what happens. Sometimes you don't get this. Sometimes that's the price. And you know that AC unit is going to go out soon, and you're going to hopefully plan for it. It's not always blame the inspector, but I will say the inspectors, they do get sued a lot. Okay, they're bonded. And I saw in some of the comments that said, oh, well, they should be responsible for the cost going forward. Well, they are a lot of times when they get sued. If it's running on that day, usually in the notes, the footnotes of a scope note inspection, it'll say, hey, have this serviced by a qualified professional. Recommend have this serviced in the next 6 months. Recommend this, recommend that. They can't venture into the HVAC world, or they'll wind up getting in trouble with it. The home inspectors have to be very careful in what they say and what they allocate to, because the seller could wind up coming back and say, oh, you didn't tell the truth about what you saw, or the agent would say you cannibalized the deal because you didn't follow the scope of what you're an expert at. A home inspector is not a licensed roofer, plumber, HVAC guy, septic guy. He's just a guy that took a course and The license gave him a parameter that he can stay in. So you can't always blame everybody for some of these deals. Sometimes it's the 10% rule of real estate is, hey, I'm going to put a 10% variable on this because something I didn't see in this deal is going to go wrong, and I'm going to allocate for that. When I go to buy a house as an investor, I'm going to usually go, if I'm not going to live in it, it's going to be investment. I'm going to go in at 70% ARV, and I'm going to allocate a 10% rule. So we're at 70, 65, 75% ARV allocating for things like this. And sometimes that's just real estate. And when you have to pay for an HVAC, well, at least you have a new one now. Some of these insurance companies are going to make you replace a hot water heater after 10 years, an HVAC after 10 years, a roof after 15. That's just what, in the state of Florida where I'm at, usually that's what you'll wind up doing. When you see a 4-point, when they're that old, you can go on and bank on that insurance company is going to force you to replace some stuff anyways.
Yes, I took my chores off. This is always the case. Bathroom is nice. Yeah, all of this is left unfinished. So here we have another bay window. Remember what I said about checking under. All of this is left unfinished and exposed. Wide open. Here we have more gaps, big enough for a rat to fit in. Some of the downspouts are damaged and they're draining near the property. Saturation built up on the sides of the home. We have an outlet near the toilet, and it should be GFCI protected, but it's not. We have some grout separation. Not only is the cover missing for this fixture, but it's also crooked. No control at the switch.
First red flag on this house, you walk around and you see those drain, catchers turned around backwards. The foreman should have walked all the way around that house and saw that. And the fact that he didn't see those concrete catchers, and you see it stacking up beside the house, the fact that he didn't catch that is the reason why he didn't catch anything else. That foreman needs to be fired. That home builder needs to go check his own work. That home builder and the foreman should have walked that entire house when it was finished and said, yes, it's finished. Obviously they didn't, so the rest of the house is going to be trash. Just indicators, red flags.
All right, another new build that's going to be subject to payment shock. I'm going to tell you what to look out for. This one just got closed 2 weeks ago. I asked the owner if I could share it, blocked out the information, so here we go. Great interest rate on a new build, 30-year fixed FHA loan. $1,437 is the principal and interest. That part does not change. You're going to come down into the escrow. Projected payments, principal and interest, that matches. Mortgage insurance, separate, but that checks out, makes sense. Escrow account, $168. That's supposed to pay my taxes and insurance. Go down to the next box. So that they tell you estimated payment is $1,732.70, total of all these. Go down to this next box. Estimated taxes, insurance, and assessments is $526. Where is that in your payment? Where is that in your estimated payment? If you scooch over here, you'll see it says, oh, only some of the property taxes are included in this estimate above.
This catches a lot of people. Lenders will pad some of these numbers, one, to get people qualified, two, they don't let people know that if you're buying a new build, your property taxes are going to explode the next year because they improved a vacant lot with a house, and then the county's going to come back and get you. So your escrow, your mortgage, your escrow, the property taxes is going to go up. And it winds up getting people, and sometimes they can't afford their new house once the property taxes go up. Lenders need to chill out on this, and if you're buying a house, you must learn how to read one of these. As an agent, I see them very seldom if the lender lets me see it or the client lets me see it. They don't always let the agent see it, and really most people are going to say it's outside it's outside the window of an agent. Like I said before, there are windows that an agent has to stay in, a lender has to stay in, the title company has to stay in, ... They don't let you merge because it's not in your scope of knowledge under your license. So you got to be very careful with these things, especially as an agent talking about one of these, because this is the lender's world. But as a buyer, you should learn how to read this. If you don't know how to read that, Ask your lender how to read that and know every number, because you got to know you can afford this. And the lender's just trying to sell a note. And you've got to understand, can I afford this in the future?
I'm in the process of buying my very first house as a 28-year-old with no kids. I'm not married. I am in a relationship. I close in 7 days, and I feel like I should be super excited right now and happy, but in reality, I am terrified. And I am so nervous, and I want to back out, but it is literally way too late in the process for me to back out. And I missed my last chance to do that. And so now I am just like sitting here and regretting my decision, but we're just gonna have to make it work. We're gonna have to figure it out. And yeah, I'm gonna be house poor. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna afford food. I don't know how I'm gonna afford gas. I don't know what I'm doing. Who let me do this? Who let me do this?
Your real estate agent should be asking you questions. You should be talking to your real estate agent. It's never too late. Until you wire the money and you sign on that last dotted line, you can back out. Yeah, there are repercussions sometimes of losing your earnest money or incurring the costs of inspections and surveys and lender fees and appraisal fees. Yes, there are costs. But it's better than getting into a house you can't afford or a situation you don't want to be in. I mean, as an investor, I look at it sometimes, I might lose my earnest money. But if I've got a $5,000 non-refundable earnest money down, and I find that the whole back half of the house is eaten up with termites, and it's going to be a $50,000 renovation that I wasn't planning, and the property doesn't work, and it's never going to be worth that, and it's a big monstrosity, I'm ejecting out of the deal. I'm going to take my $5,000 loss and I'm going to walk away. I'm going to go on to the next deal and try to make it up somewhere else. Sometimes you lose money in real estate deals, and sometimes with advice, your real estate agent as a professional should be saying, hey, look, if you're in a real bad situation, you need to think about getting out of this deal. Yeah, you might lose some money, but it's better than losing a lot of money. Okay. And I feel for her, and I feel like she needs some good counseling. She should have had a better real estate agent. Hopefully she's not representing herself. Real estate agents have their place. That's why you get the best you possibly can. They're worth it. $5,000 here or $10,000 here saves you $100,000 and a bad headache in 2 years of your life. Sometimes you pay for advice. Yeah, some houses aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some need to be torn down. The problem is some of these cities have made it so hard to tear down houses that it's impossible to tear them down. You know, all the permits and the fees to get rid of and dispose of some of these old houses because they're full of asbestos and all kinds of stuff. So you try to renovate them, and some houses just can't be modernized. Like, there's nowhere to put insulation, there's nowhere to put the HVAC systems. Some houses just need to go.
I thought I was buying a rental property. What I actually bought was a nightmare in disguise. The listing said needs TLC. It was cheap, it was ugly, and I was confident. This would be my first real estate win. I pictured a quick flip, rented it out in 30 days, easy cash flow. The moment I stepped inside, it smelled like regret. Mold in the walls, soft floors, and a toilet that had been used but never flushed. Turns out the house had been vacant for years with broken pipes hiding behind every wall. Therefore, my budget doubled before I even started demo. Contractors quit, supplies were delayed, and I was bleeding money just keeping the lights on. But the worst part? Halfway through the renovations, my contractor vanished. Took my deposit and disappeared. I stood in the empty living room thinking, what did I just do?
Contractor fraud is terrible. It's awful. The local law enforcement needs to really do something about it. And they're like the group that's really hard to sue. Most of them don't have anything unless they're like a big contractor. They have these LLCs and they're really hard to sue, and you're going to go spend $10,000 suing for $10,000. Like, it's really hard, and most attorneys don't want nothing to do with it. It might take a year or two. You got all these depositions. Most people just write it off, and that's how that contractor keeps going from one to another. If you find a contractor that just got into town, starting their business, they've been doing it 20 years. It's always a round number, 20 years, 30 years. They're from out of town, and they're going to be out of town when you go to find them. They're gone. Don't ever pay up front. Don't ever, I know I'm going to hear it in the comment section, don't ever pay a contractor up front. Okay, make sure you get invoices. Make sure you get a start time and an end time. Make sure, like, I've made a lot of videos on this. Check those videos out on how to deal with contractors. But anytime you're looking at an investment property, that's why you got to get it really cheap. You know, 70% ARV minus the cost of repairs, and you're going to have the 10% problem you didn't see. You're going to have contractors run off on you. You're going to have a lot of wasted time on things you didn't know about. That's part of the game. That's part of the risk of real estate. Sometimes you lose money. And always factor in the cost of your time, because a lot of people, if they factored in the cost of their time, would realize they didn't make any money. You got to really get a house cheap to do a year-long flip. It's really hard.
New construction inspection on this $4 million home. Starting off right where this trim meets the brick veneer. Have some gaps. Need to get that all sealed up. This is at the back corner of the foundation. We do have a couple nice cracks that have popped up already. In the master shower, we do have a few shower heads. The hand sprayer has good pressure. First shower head has good pressure, but then it's pretty much non-existent at the last one. Water's just trickling out even when the other two are shut off. Within the same shower stall, we do have this little niche, and the tile is not installed across the top or the bottom of this. This is in one of the many guest bathrooms in this house. Of course, we should have GFCI protection on the outlet, which this one does not. This is a little bar area that's right off of the kitchen. We should have some trim below these cabinets.
Run from that house. You see those cracks? You see things just completely in your face, unfinished. It's like that all inside the walls. You see that one shower head is not working. Obviously the water's going somewhere. And to be able to pull that marble or that really expensive tile off the wall to get into the wall to see what's wrong with it or to fix whatever valves are wrong, it's going to be a monstrosity of expense, because that is really expensive work. Run from that house. Run. Not every house can be flipped. Not every house can be renovated. Not every new build should be bought, no matter how cheap it is. If it's cheap and it's been on the market and everybody's seen it for a while, it's cheap for a reason. If I see something that's been on the market for 6 months and I walk in and I'm like, what's going on here? There's a reason. Because the market is the market and it will figure it out. That's wild. I mean, a lot of times they're just glued in from the bottom, or there's two little shims underneath it with some screws holding that bad boy in. And I'm surprised this doesn't happen more, especially with heavy pots, lots of heavy pots in a sink. But that's gnarly, and it's going to be expensive. And probably all that water is underneath the flooring now, so that's terrible. But that's wild. But that's all I got, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below your comments, your thoughts. What do you think about all these? Some really expensive houses, some terrible work. I tried my best to give you my knowledge off of being an expert in this field and see this stuff a lot, buying and selling. I've bought and sold a lot of houses, okay? So don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, and let's get on to the next one. I've been seeing some really interesting stuff lately. See you guys in the next one.